welcome if you are new. We just pulled up at one of our favorite Amish salvage bulk stores, R&S. We're gonna run in here and get a few things and head home and fix us some lunch. Come join us today.
I bet you think that I should calm down, and that I'm overthinking everything about you, and that we're good the way we are. But I don't know that much about you, what things you like and what you don't. It's not that long since I met you for the first time. You know we should work it out. You know we should work it out. Before I'm too invested, I should probably ask you all my questions, get to know you better. Like, can you be trusted? Will you take me for granted? And will you let me down? I know I'm feeling something for you. The way you look, the way you laugh, and how you move. It kinda makes me go crazy. But we should take it slow, work things out so you don't let me go.
We are back from the store. Here's everything that we got. I spent $48.33. Hello, Max. You gonna join Bubba? We always get some sort of donut when we go, so he picked up the 3 chocolate dipped ones. I got some sugar. I was completely out of my yeast, so I like to get the Red Star kind. The active dry yeast is what I prefer. So this is what I get. I just keep it in a mason jar, or if I'm not, like if I buy extra of this, I'll throw it in the freezer and then pull it out. But I just keep it in a mason jar if it's open, and I keep it in the fridge. But that will last me a while. Needed to restock that though. We needed some more pencils for school, so we got pencils. Ants, I've been trying to fight the ants off, so I got some more of these. Got cheese, 99 cents, can't beat that. I got pepper. I got this 4-pack of tomato sauce, and I paid $2.49 for it. And then my big old bag of flour. I missed my flour. This is my favorite flour. I had been using the, I don't know, whatever that red and white bag is that you can get at most grocery stores. Whenever, we were gone, I couldn't get my favorite flour from the Amish store. And so I was using that, and I could just tell such a difference in my baked goods. So I will forever buy this flour as long as I can get it. Let me zoom in so y'all can see. My favorite. Got some eggs. We go through so many eggs. Went and picked up these Annie's Cookie Bites, 99 cents. And then we also got a 4-pack of the Annie's Mac and Cheese. Paid $3.50 for those. And that's it. We didn't need too much, just a few things. Basics. Being out of flour, yeast, and sugar, y'all know, like, those are staples, pantry staples, so we needed to restock on those. But let me put this away. We're gonna figure out what we're having for lunch. I think we're gonna fix some homemade hamburger helpers, so y'all can come join us, or join me while Winston plays, while we cook some lunch. I have to say, I've gotten pretty good at these one-pot meals since we've been living in a camper for a little over a year now. I'm gonna make some homemade hamburger helper real quick. I've got about a pound of hamburger meat there. Now, we actually got good quality meat this time, so I don't have to worry about draining any grease off. sometimes it just depends, if we can afford good beef, then we buy the good beef. If we can't, then we buy the cheap stuff, because either way, we still have to eat around here. But I'm cooking that up with some peppers and onions. I did also add some seasoning. I add salt, pepper, garlic powder, and some paprika. Y'all know I season in layers, so I season every step of the way. And once that meat is no longer pink, I am going to go ahead and add my noodles in. Now, Winston wanted bow ties, so I did about 2.5 cups of the bow ties. But if I'm doing like a smaller noodle, like elbow, I will just do 2 cups of pasta. And then I'm adding in a whole carton, I think that's 32 ounces of vegetable stock. I normally just use whatever y'all see. I'm using whatever I have on hand, but when I have, like, if I have the right stock for what protein I'm using, I do like to do that. I'm just to pair the flavors, but you got to use what you got on hand, and so we're just using the veggie stock there. So I'm going to let those noodles cook in that veggie stock, and that's going to start thickening up. Those noodles will cook. Once those noodles are almost cooked through and the, liquid has simmered down quite a bit, I normally add in heavy cream. But I was out of heavy cream, and so I just added in some milk. But like I said, I do normally add heavy cream, and I do prefer heavy cream over adding milk. But I will just let that cook down. Y'all see there is still a little bit of liquid in it, but I just taste test the noodle once the noodles are about done. And you have about that much liquid in it, I'll start adding in the heavy cream or milk. I don't want to confuse any of y'all, but heavy cream is just, you get that, it starts thickening up. The cheese is creamier in it when you melt that cheese in the heavy cream. To me, it's just 10 times better if you use heavy cream. But I'll just add that in. I'll almost cover those noodles again, and then I'll just let that start simmering. And while I'm kind of stirring and that's simmering down a little bit, I'll add in the cheese. And then once you add that cheese in, normally when you do the heavy cream, it is just so creamy and delicious, and it's the perfect homemade hamburger helper. Of course, like I said, I season in layers, and so I'm going to add some more seasonings in there. Luckily, we caught that before it fell on the floor, the cheese. We had a quick reaction there, but Winston's going to help as he steals some cheese as well. We're going to finish up this hamburger helper, but that's it. This was so simple. It's literally one pot, and this is something that we make. We make some sort of a version of hamburger helper at least once a week. Okay. It's weird when people see me filming, I swear, even after all these years. It is so bright outside, but Winston's inside playing, talking on the phone with his cousins. I was like, come on, come out here and chat with you guys. So, I had somebody ask, whenever I'd asked about like updated like Q&A questions, they asked about like grocery budget, and so I thought I would talk about that in today's video. We don't really have a budget, because if we're going to the store, we're getting what we need and what we can afford. If we can't afford it, we do without, or I'll try to supplement with something cheaper, but that's just kind of how it's been. Groceries are outrageous. So, and like I told y'all, we're on a budget. So that's like, I don't have a budget, but it's not because like we have just endless money and can go buy what we want. It's because we're going and buying like exactly what we need to get us through. And that's it. Now there's times that we have the extra money in our budget, and we might splurge on a nice meal. you know, and get steaks or, you know, whatever. But like, and like I said in that hamburger helper clip, like if we can afford the better quality meat, then we buy the better quality meat. If we can't afford it, then we don't. We still have to eat. You know, there is things that is more expensive that I do like to keep on hand, but food wise, and where I prefer to cook from scratch, and you know, like how I try to keep an ingredients based pantry, like there is some things that I just will not, you know, budge on. But like I said, we just do without if I can't afford it. You know, or you know, there will be times where, you know, like I said with the meat, you know, I'll buy the cheaper meat just to get us through, because we still have to eat. Being ingredients based is cheaper at times. Yes, you know, buying in bulk is cheaper when you can afford it, or, you know, you're not living in a camper, but, you know, and you have room to store those things. So like, you know, like I said, I'm picking and choosing, or, you know, I'm basing our meals off of, you know, what we can afford for the week, you know, for groceries. Now with us living in the camper, I normally go to the grocery about twice a week. I'll go once before Luke comes in, and I'll, you know, get stuff to plan for meals or whatnot. And then once he leaves back out, if I see that, you know, we need anything for Winston and I to get us through while he's gone, then I will run again. You know, like today we went and picked up, you know, I had been out of flour. To me, that's a staple. I spent what was that, $16? I don't even remember how much that bag of flour was. But that basic bag of flour that I bought, that's gonna last me for sure 3 weeks, maybe a month. But that's all my breads. That's, you know, that's breakfast stuff. That's, you know, pancakes. That's biscuits. That's, you know, like I said, that's so much stuff that I do not buy in the store anymore. You know, like I don't buy the bread items. Well, there has been times that I have, you know, and like I talk about that, like if, you know, we're having a party, you know, like cookout, whatever, like, you know, if it's a big batch, then I don't. But I'm saying like just for our budget as like normal groceries, if you get what I'm saying. Like I don't buy the tortillas. I don't buy, you know, I make all that. I don't buy the baked goods. I don't buy the box mixes of the cake, the brownies, the cook. You know, I don't buy any of that stuff anymore. Like I make it all here, so it's cheaper in that way. Because, and that's why I told Luke, because we went one time. He was like, I just cannot get over how expensive stuff is. And I said, it really is. I said, but imagine if we were still buying the bread, the buns, the tortillas, the, you know, all the cakes, you know, the cookies, the snacky stuff. And you know, like y'all seen, you know, that I normally, when I go to the salvage store, that's when I try to buy those like snacky things. You know, like y'all seen us pick up the little thing of cookies, the, you know, the Annie's, or the little cups of, mac and cheese. Like I like buying those there because they're cheaper, because they're at a discounted price, you know, because they're at that salvage store. So that's when that helps me save money, buying those snacky things that, you know, the fun things, the junk things, that's what I call those. That stuff that, like, you know, I like to keep there. Like Winston likes having those little mac and cheese cups, so I'll buy them for him. I don't, you know, it's not a huge deal, but like, it's like, you know, we don't buy, that's not, what am I trying to say? That's like moderation stuff, if you get what I'm saying. Like I don't, you know, go and stock up on, like we don't, like y'all will see us buy, like Winston normally gets a pack of granola bars, you know, when we go, but he didn't see any this time. Instead, he got the cookies. Like, you know, he normally can pick a couple things, but, you know, like those are just fun things. Like we make the granola bars, you know, like for him getting that's just a fun little treat that he wanted to pick up, you know, like, but like we make all of that stuff. We make our snacks, you know, like, and so I feel like I've got off on a little ramble. Y'all know my brain doesn't always, I squirrel a lot, but I think you're getting my gist. Being ingredients based can be expensive on certain things, like the oils, you know, and like certain things, like, but it's also so much cheaper because I'm not going to the grocery store and I'm not buying like the basic ingredients plus all of, like I said, the box, the prepackaged. Like, I'm not buying any of that anymore. So to me, it's a huge difference, and it's a huge savings. Yes, we're still on a tight budget, and we are, just going to the store and buying what we need at times. And then, like I said, if we have it in our budget and we want to splurge and have a nice meal, because I do feel like that is important. Because you can go and be eating the same stuff, for a while, and it gets exhausting. But like, if you can just sneak in, a steak dinner once a month, like every 3 weeks or whatever, change it up. Like, we like getting the salmon. Those are kind of expensive. But like, we'll get those and we'll put them in the freezer, and that will help kind of balance out, our cheap meals that we try to get through. And then, we can kind of splurge and have, like, to me, that's a nice meal, if you get what I'm saying. But I had somebody ask, and I was like, I do need to talk about this, because like, we don't have a budget, but it's because we broke, we're broke. I spent $48 today, and it really wasn't a lot, if you think about it. But that, like I said, that one bag of flour, that's gonna do so many things over this next 4 weeks. And so that's gonna, provide all kinds of different meals and, options, not full meals, like that goes with other things. But like that, it's just, I've noticed, like, yes, groceries are expensive. Even going to the grocery now, getting those things, it can be expensive. Like, I love having avocado oil, but there's times where I can't justify paying, $7 to $10 for a bottle of oil. I'm really picky and choosy, if that makes sense. Like, if I can go without a certain thing, then, I do. If I can use something else, or, make it at home, I do so, because that helps, us save so much money. And, and like I said, Winston will go get those, fun things. That's his treats. But, he does, y'all see, he cooks with me a lot. He helps me a lot in the kitchen. So, like, he knows what all I make. And, so, like, when he goes and gets that, it's, like I said, it's just a fun treat for him. Kids deserve to, be able to go to the grocery store and, pick up a thing every now and then, just to enjoy it. That's his little treat. He can go in the pantry and get it. But that's moderation. That's not him sitting down and eating that whole box, in one setting, or, eating that whole thing. Like, that's gonna have to stretch. Or if you do eat it all, then it's gone. And, we make cookies, we make brownies, we make granola bars, like we do those little oatmeal balls. Like, we have, we do all those things, muffins, sweetbreads. I'm trying to think of, I don't know. Y'all know, we just, like, I don't buy the muffin mixes, pancake mixes. Like, we just do everything. I make my own syrup, so like, I'm not, I don't know. Yes, it can be expensive, but it's also not. But you do have to pick and choose what you want to eat, and like, okay, I had to re-watch that, because I was like, am I even making sense? And it was a little bit squirrely, but I think y'all get the gist of what I'm trying to say. We're on a budget, we're being picky and choosy, but still trying to prioritize our health. That's something that's important to me. But like I said, I do without if I can, and if I have the money to get it, then I'll get it. But one of the things, like I talked about, there's times where I'll, buy the more expensive thing if I can afford it, and other, like tortilla chips. To me, if I can afford it, then yes, I will pay for my favorite $5 bag of chips. If I can't, then I will buy the $2 bag of chips, like the Great Value brand. Then, I'll buy those. But like dairy, not milk, because in my opinion, I can't justify paying $5 for a carton of milk, because we don't go through a lot of milk. But like cottage cheese, sour cream, like that kind of dairy, like I will buy the name brand. And that's just because it's better quality. If you read the back of read the ingredients. If y'all ever see me in the grocery store and I'm looking at the back of the label, I'm looking at the ingredients. I'm not looking at the calories. I don't give two craps about the numbers. I don't care about none of that. I look at the ingredients, just to see if it's better. But like I said, there's times where, we got to get the other just to get us through. But that's how it is right now. I would love to be able to, you know, go and get fresh, you know, local meat and, you know, shop more local and, you know, buy the more, you know, better quality things. But there's times where you know, it's not in the budget, and it's part of it. It's part of it. So, that's it. But, hope y'all got the gist. Trying to think. I think someone else had asked if I still had a stock up in the basement of my in-laws. There is still some stuff down there, but we honestly have gone through a lot of it. We've gone through a lot of our emergency food, honestly, just within this last year. You know, just really trying. Not that I wanted to use it, but you know, we're just tight. And, you know, there was times I had to go over there and, you know, use some of that, my long-term, emergency stuff. So there is still some stuff, but it's nowhere near. And like I said, I'm not able to do like the $5 stock up right now. That's not a priority. I know that sounds bad. I used to be like the full prepper and all that, but like we live in a camper right now, so it's different. I have a different mindset. You know, so we have talked about bringing a deep freeze over here, you know, just to help with space, to be able to have some stuff. So that's one of the other things is, you know, I talked about being burned out in the camper. And that's one of the big things that I am burned out, is because like I am tired of eating the same stuff. Not necessarily with budget wise, but like we just don't have a lot of room to store things, you know, like in the freezer. And so if we brought a deep freeze over here, you know, I could have more room, you know, to be able to kind of stock more of those convenience things. You know, if y'all been here a while, y'all know I used to make pizzas, homemade pizzas. I used to make, you know, homemade pizzas and freeze them. I would do cookie dough. I would do meatballs. I would, you know, do chicken nuggets. I'm like, just freeze. I would do freezer biscuits. Like, you know, I would just have all these things where I wasn't literally making everything from scratch. But this is our home right now, you know? So like, you know, you got to work with what you got. This has just been our, you know, this is our life right now. We're just trying to figure things out as we go. But I think it's about to storm, so I'm gonna head in. I'll talk to y'all in the next one. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments down below. Bye, guys.